All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to the San Jose State Weekly Football Press Conference. Spartans 2-1 and on a 9-game conference winning streak after their 17-13 win over the Rainbow Warriors of Hawaii. Spartans back into non-conference play against Western Michigan this week on Saturday, September 25th. That's a 2 o'clock East Coast time kickoff, 11 a.m. Pacific. The TV coverage will be on ESPN Plus. 8:60 a.m. KTRB will be the flagship station for that game. Before we bring up head coach Brent Brennan, there is another time update for later in the year. The Thanksgiving Day game against Fresno State now has a time 12:30 kickoff from CEFCU Stadium. FS1 will be the television coverage. So again, Thanksgiving 12:30 kickoff from CEFCU Stadium. With that, we'll bring up San Jose State head coach Brent Brennan.
Good afternoon. Good to see everybody, although not really because I'm looking in the camera and you guys are on the laptop. So we are busy getting ready for our next game against Western Michigan. The Hawaii game was a really, really important win for us. That over the years, that's been a really hard place to play, really complicated, just travel, long trip, time difference, dealing with kind of the aloha fever that sometimes teams get when they go over there. I thought our team handled it really well. It's exciting for me to be in a position where we won a game and we're still, feel like we can play better. We are frustrated with some of the things we didn't get done. But I thought our team was incredibly resilient, and I thought our defense was lights out all night. Our offense made enough plays, and then obviously several missed opportunities there in terms of throwing and catching. I think it was hard to see on TV, but there was a really complicated, tricky wind situation coming from, kind of the open side of that stadium there. And it really affected our ability to do some things when we were going into that wind. It was just hard. And I don't know if you could see that on TV, but that was definitely something that we were working through. But I'm just proud of our players. I'm proud of how they played, how they finished the game. It gives us a chance to work on some stuff that we thought we could have done better. And now we had to shift focus really quickly. We got back at 9 a.m. yesterday, and we're on to Western Michigan, who just had a huge win against Pitt on the road. They've played good football all year. If you watch them play, they are well disciplined. They are well coached. They're very physical. And so this is going to be a very, very tough football game. We get on the plane Thursday and head out there. Just going through that time, the time differences and getting our bodies adjusted is going to be something that's really going to be talked about a lot and something that we're working hard at. We put the Hawaii game to bed and we're on to this next opponent. And every game you play is critical in the world of college football. And we're excited to go play again. We have some work to do in the next couple of days, but hopefully we can get that done in the right order, in the right fashion, and give ourselves a chance to play good football on Saturday.
All right, take some questions here. Vitas, go ahead.
Yes, Coach. You mostly have very few out-of-state students, but one of them did play in Michigan for a few years. So do you think his teammates are going to ask Will any advice about the state, or what the weather will be like, or what the what it's like to play in Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll be some conversation like that. I think, we'll just be more excited for Will to get to go play. But he's been playing such good football for us. He's been a great addition to our team. And so, I think guys can ask him questions about it. And, obviously he didn't play there. So how relevant some of that stuff is, obviously the time difference and getting adjusted in some of that, I think he can shed some light on for the team.
All right, over to Vic Aquino. Go ahead.
Brent, can you maybe describe how difficult it is for these players, obviously go to Hawaii time zone, short week, the classes, and just, again, going east, another time zone, and what's behind that? What do the players have to go through, just to give regular folks just an idea of how tough that is?
Well, I mean, I think it's complicated just because, you're going 3 hours west and then come back and then you go 3 hours east. But I also think it's something that we're just going to address, which we've kind of already addressed at the beginning of the week. And then we're just going to focus on the preparation. And, if we talk about it all the time, then it becomes some kind of distraction or some kind of potential excuse, which I don't want that to be even part of our conversation, really, right? We've addressed it. They know what's coming, and now we need to do the work that gives us a chance to play good football against a really good team on Saturday. So our focus is more that way, Vic. I do think for young people, college athletics is demanding. Doesn't matter what sport you play. There's, you got travel, you got school, you got weightlifting, you got practice, you got normal social life, all the stuff that young people have to navigate when they're a student athlete. And so, trying to get them in the right headspace early in the week, coming off the tricky travel yesterday, getting them situated and restarted academically, so that we can make sure we handle all that stuff so that when we do get on the plane to go out there, that we're ready, that we have our academic stuff is handled and we're a good spot there and we can focus on the football game.
Okay, Jackson Moore, going over to you.
Coach, the running game was a big part in boosting your offense last season. Just how big of an emphasis is that at this point of the season to ramp that up a bit?
Well, I think, a lot of what we went through the other night is, I think a year ago, we ran the ball really well against Hawaii. And the other night they were going to put enough people in the box to make sure that was hard for us. And that's more the reality of it. I feel great about our O-line. I feel great about our running backs. And so, and that's going to be something that we obviously have to do to win good games. I thought we ran the ball at times the other night effectively, especially late in the game, which helped eat up some clock and get some first downs and some of those things. But we definitely need to run the ball better. We want to run the ball more and more effectively. And so, I think as we keep going, I think that will continue to grow and improve. A lot of that depends on how people play us.
Okay, Kevin, over to you.
Coach, talk a little bit about Caleb Ellaby, the quarterback for Western Michigan. I've seen highlights, haven't been able to track down, obviously as much film as you have on him, but looking at his stats, seems like a kind of pretty big time quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, he's put up some huge numbers and it looks like he can make every throw. Looks like he can get himself out of trouble. And so you always have to be ready for that when you're playing against that. I think the thing for us is that, every week or, certainly the last 2 weeks, we've had to play against a really good quarterback, right? The last 2 games, right? Cordero and Slovis. So, I think we have some, and in this conference week in and week out, you're playing against really good players at that position. So, that's kind of par for the course. When you line up on Saturday, you're going to play against a good trigger man. And this guy's a really good player. And we have to be ready for that because he is really effective. He's got really good receivers. They like I said, they are well coached and well disciplined. And so schematically, they're very sound and he does a good job delivering the ball and getting it to the people he needs to.
Steve Kroner, go ahead.
Brent, how you doing?
What's up, Steve? How are you?
Doing okay, thank you. Checking on Nick Nash. He has been a quarterback as far as I could tell until Saturday night. He became a wide receiver. Was that something in terms of just you were down in depth at wide receiver, or is he now officially a wide receiver?
I think you're going to see Nick Nash everywhere. And, we want him to kind of continue to be that Swiss Army knife that can do a bunch of things and impact the game in multiple ways. And so, I think that was a really challenging night for him because he was frustrated because he had some drop passes, which I'm sure everybody saw. But he's so competitive and he works so hard. I'm excited to see what he's going to do as we continue to move him around and find spots for him to continue to impact the game. I know Coach White's trying to get him on the kickoff team. So he's just an awesome athlete and a tremendous competitor. And we're excited to be able to have somebody like that has the versatility that we can move him around and hopefully get the ball in his hands in more ways than one.
Is that something of the Cordell Stewart?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, if the results are like Cordell, fantastic.
Yeah.
There's not many people that are going to remember who Cordell Stewart is. I mean, you're going back a little bit. I know it's hard to believe, but like my players won't.
He's a young guy, so in my perspective.
Yeah, right. Mine too.
All right, back to Vitas. Go ahead.
Yes. So Fresno State had a huge win against at UCLA. Jake Hayner, had a tremendous game. Third Mountain West victory over Pac-12 team this season. Just can you talk about the early impact? What you've seen or what you've felt, from the conference? You guys pushed USC in the fourth quarter. I mean, how much is Fresno State, closing the gap on Power 5 teams?
Well, I think our conference is really tough. We talk about that all the time. I think the conference has very good players. I think the conference is extremely well coached. And so every week, you're seeing those matchups, you're seeing those games get closer and closer. And I think, that line between all divisions of football is getting thinner and thinner. Just with where scholarships are at, with the transfer portal, grad transfers, all those things. I think you see that line is just getting thinner and thinner. And that was an awesome win for Fresno State and an awesome win for San Diego State. So Utah State had the great win earlier. So, against Washington State. So I think you're seeing that, everybody can beat you every time you line up. And that's why your preparation and your process is so important, because everyone you play is good enough to beat you. And everyone you play, you have a chance to beat also.
Over to Vic again. Go ahead.
I'm talking to Rico a little bit on Sunday morning. So he, around Derek Odom's scheme and whatnot, he says something just really interesting. Like it's so simple for them to work within, and all the players can kind of grasp it very easily. So I never thought of it that way, but can you describe what he kind of might mean by that? The simplicity of it, and that's what he kind of emphasized around.
Well, I think in all of our schemes, what we're trying to do is, be complex enough to give our opponent a challenge, a hard time, but simple enough for our players to let them play fast and let their talent show up. And sometimes, I've been part of situations many times in my coaching career where you had too much inventory and too much volume, and they're all good ideas, but it's really not what the coaches know. It's what the players know and what can the players execute. And so, that part of it is, I think not having a bunch of transition on our staff gives us a chance to have some consistency in the scheme, some consistency in the leadership, and you can see development, right? You can see the process of improvement that way. And so I love that Rico said that, and I'm glad our guys feel that way. Everything we're trying to do schematically is to give our players a chance to play fast, to play physical, and to execute at a really high level.
Kevin, back to you.
Coach, I wanted to stay with that whole throwback theme. Jordan Cobbs played a bunch on Saturday night. I referenced the 44 and Brian Bosworth and dead air from my play-by-play guy, because again, the generational thing. But anyhow, forgetting the number, just talking about Jordan, I thought that was a guy who came through big for you on Saturday night defensively, especially when Kyle Harmon had to go out because of the targeting.
Absolutely. Jordan Cobbs is a Bay Area kid, which we love, and he has worked extremely hard. And a year ago, I think he was maybe a little bit heavy, so he lost some of his explosiveness and some of his speed, but he just had a great offseason, byproduct of COVID, right? Like the players were home for so long, shelter in place, mom's cooking, whatever that is, and no place to lift, right? Like where Jordan's from, he doesn't necessarily have a great weight room, and he just doesn't have a Gold's Gym in his garage, so to speak. So his commitment this offseason, and along with, I think, the scheme and the good coaching he's getting from Coach White and Coach Odom and all that stuff, it's really fun to see him his process start to accelerate and his learning start to accelerate. And then, the byproduct of that is he's making way more plays.
Steve Kroner, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of just to follow up on Kevin's point, but you are going to have Kyle Harmon for the first half at Western Michigan. Is that correct?
No, we won't.
And how does that affect your game planning, if at all, without one of the best defensive players, probably not only on your team, but probably in the conference?
I think that's just what you have to deal with, right? That's just the the way the rules are and the way the situation is. And so it's next guy up. And like we were just talking about, Jordan Cobbs played good football the other night. We feel really good about that linebacker group. We got multiple guys that can go in there and play. Of course, we're going to miss Kyle Harmon. He's first team all conference player. He's one of the, main contributors and heart and soul of our defense and team captain. Right. So we're going to miss that. But that's a reality of the situation. And so, for us, we're not focusing on it. We're not dwelling on it. We're like, how do we move forward? Right? Let's get the next guy ready to play. And let's go out there and play good football. So it's not we haven't even talked about it since Saturday night. So it's because the rule, like once it happens, it's like, all right, move forward. We got to play.
Jackson, go ahead.
Coach, just what's the assessment of the receiver rotation and how that unit's performing after 3 games with the kind of varying opponents?
Well, I think we got work to do there, right? And I think that's obvious for anyone that watched it. And we knew that was going to be a developmental group for us. And there's some really good plays in there. And then last night, on Saturday night, we saw some missed opportunities also. And so the biggest thing is that we keep coaching them up, keep encouraging them, keep teaching them, keep finding ways to, get them, really comfortable with the scheme or adjusting to the ball properly or whatever it is. I think, I mentioned earlier some of that stuff on Saturday night. The wind made that a little bit tricky throwing the ball. The movement of the ball, the fade ball that Starkle threw to Nash in the end zone, I thought was going to be a touchdown. The wind pushed that thing 3-4 yards out of bounds. And so that made some of those adjustments a little bit harder than normal. And I think maybe a little bit hard to see on TV what that wind was like. But either way, it doesn't matter if it's snowing or in a hurricane. If we're throwing the football, we still got to find ways to play it and still find ways to finish those catches. And so we're hard at work with that. And I think we believe in those guys. It's a good group of young guys. They just haven't played as much because Trey and Bailey were so impactful a year ago. And so I think we're going to see rapid development from that group, really quick acceleration of their improvement as we play week in and week out.
Vitas, go ahead.
Coach, you mentioned that you got to campus at 9 a.m. Did you get to see your family at all? Or did you get right back to work breaking down film? What was Sunday like for you?
No, Sunday was a quick turnaround. I went home for grab something to eat and change my clothes and take a shower. That's a crazy. I think it's harder for the players, right? Because you just play in this crazy, super intense 4-quarter last play of the game, and then you shower and then you get on a plane, on a bus, and you're on a plane for on a bus plane 6-7 hours, and you're sleeping on the plane, right? So we gave the players yesterday off, and the staff went to work on Western Michigan, and then we practiced today. So it is what it is, right? When you come into the season, when we presented the schedule to the team in training camp, we kind of talked about this is what this is, right? We're going to get home early in the morning. We're going to push it forward. We got to get ready to go. The next week, we're going to do the same thing. As the schedule gets laid out, you just have to find the best way to play the schedule, right? Because you don't have any say in the schedule. So the best way is okay, this is what it is. Let's go get ready to go. And whatever those things are, not let them be an excuse, not let them be a reason. This is the most I've talked about it on this call since August in terms of what the schedule is or what the travel is. So it's all about them just, getting in the right mindset and getting ready to attack the opportunity that's in front of them. All right, guys, thank you. Maybe we'll have one of these in person sometime before the end of the year.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for attending this week's press conference. Saturday the 25th, the next game, 2:00 Eastern time, 11 a.m. Pacific time, the kickoff at Western Michigan. ESPN Plus with the coverage and 8:60 a.m. KTRB with the radio call. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next week.